So tonight we are going to go ahead and we're going to kind of explore labor and delivery. So this is a really fun subject. So to start the evening off, I would just love you guys can answer. Do you guys know anything about your birth? Like, did your mom ever tell you anything about birth? Like when you were born? Any fun stories? Yes,
I was born in the anesthetic sac.
Oh,
Yes.
neat. That is so neat. I've seen pictures of that. I've never seen that in real life. That's awesome.
Yeah, they had to break it.
Uh-huh.
Get me out after I was
Wow.
out.
That is so neat. Wow.
It was very unusual.
Good. And I was gonna say, do you know what size baby you were?
I was like seven
Like
pounds.
an average. Okay. Wow, very neat. Very neat.
I was born C-section.
Okay.
And it was back before you had the pregnancy diabetes. So I was, I can't remember either 11 or 13 now.
Okay, so you were a big baby.
Yes! Yeah,
Wow.
horrifyingly big. My sister above me was really big too.
Okay.
But yeah, I've always been heavier bone, but I think it was entirely because my mom did it.
Wow. Very good. Wow. Do you guys know anything about your birth?
I know that my mom was in labor for a really long time, and I think I was 2 weeks late.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So my pregnancy hasn't been like hers at all. So I'm hoping that it's not.
So you're
the
hoping
case.
that whole late thing
Yeah.
doesn't. Yes. Awesome. You had a sister then?
Mhm.
Do you know, was she late then?
I think she was. Yeah.
Okay.
Not as late as I was, but
Okay.
I think she was due in the beginning of November, and she came on the 8th.
Okay. So that was not 2 weeks
Yeah.
late. Very good. And Austin, anything about your birth?
My mom told me a story where she went in to the hospital and the doctor was checking her out, seeing when I would come or whatever. And he's like, he's not gonna come for a long time. I'm gonna go to lunch. And 5 minutes later I came out super quick, and he was gone. So a bunch of nurses just handled it. It's kind of funny.
Wow, that was hilarious. Yeah, I guess he had a surprise. Did he come back from lunch, or
I
did
think
he
he
just
came
wait
back
till-
and afterwards. I was already out, all done.
Wow. Yes. Good. Well, all I know is I was kind of the average 7-pound baby, and I know I was born kind of quickly, and they whisked me away from my mom. It's just I didn't know what they were doing, but I was born with meconium, where the baby has a bowel movement before, and my mom's I didn't know what that was, but they had to check me out, make sure I was all okay. So that's just kind of my little birth story. So tonight we're going to go ahead, we talked before how our bodies prepare for labor and how they give us signs. So now we're going to look at, let's just review a little bit about the prodromal labor, which is the pre-labor, or some people call it false labor. Can you guys tell me what we should do if we have that?
Call your healthcare provider. I don't know.
You can.
That's the Braxton Hicks.
That's the Braxton Hicks, yeah.
So just drink
So
water and lay
those
down.
are trying, exactly, drink some water, lay down, and just try to embrace them as much as you can, because they're kind of like our practice. And make sure you're well hydrated, and if it's especially if you're not getting sleep, definitely take that nap, and try to go on with life as much as normal. And because you don't want to try to work the labor and then tire yourself out if true labor does start. So we're going to go ahead and look at labor, and stage 1 is labor, and within that stage we've got 3 different phases. So we're going to go ahead and look at these different phases tonight. The first one is early labor. Can anybody tell me a little bit about early labor? What do you think that's going to look like? You've never been there. Awesome. Anybody else want to answer?
I'd say, well, since my daughter just went through it, hers was just cramping. And when she went into the doctor, he said, I think you're in early labor.
Okay.
Because she had already started to dilate.
Mm-hmm.
But it was more like a cramping, and it would come every 5 to 10 minutes. And
Yes, absolutely. So it's kind of like that whole, like you said, that early thing where, as you can see here on the chart, can you see that?
Yeah.
Where we do have some contractions, but they're not feeling anything really intense. They will peak a little bit, but it's nothing that you can kind of go on with life a little bit as normal. You might, this is where you're dilating from 0 to 3. And as you can tell, she's feeling pretty okay. Like life is feeling pretty good. She's feeling happy. She can talk. She can carry conversation with you. And they can be anywhere from like 5 to 20 minutes apart. So things aren't intense right now. This is where we're dilating from like 0 to 3. That's what they're going to call the early phase. This can last 12 hours or more, and I know that sounds like a really long time, but you're kind of able to talk and do life as normal. Like I like how you said that. Like it's kind of that crampy, like feeling like okay, something's going on. I'm feeling a little crampy, menstrual cramps. A lot of women like to refer it to, and you're able to talk. What should we do in this phase? What are some of the things that we can kind of? What should we do?
Eat something.
Eat something, yes. So we want to kind of go on with like eat something, not anything real heavy. Kind of keep it towards your lighter foods, but make sure you're eating and make sure you're well hydrated. If it happens like at nighttime, like it's towards evening or something, try to go to bed and sleep. If they're weak enough that you can sleep, and if they're spaced apart, you can get some, even if they do wake you up, at least doze off in between. So if it is at evening, we always tell our moms, try to get some sleep. That way, when we go into the active labor, that you're rested and not tired out. And this, you can, if you need to, you can breathe through your contractions, remembering your deep cleansing breath. For the partner, what should the partner do? What should your spouse be doing? This is where you want to help her to relax. If she's feeling tense at all, just remind her to relax. Offer her drinks, food, and just make sure she's well taken care of. This is the time where if you want to like some warm compresses or something to keep her comfortable, some cool compresses, something like that. So pretty much just kind of being with her, keeping her comfortable. And reminding her to take her deep cleansing breath. And as labor progresses, first of all, let's just pause a little bit. And we talked a little bit about affirmations that you want to hear during labor. Did you guys get a chance to talk about that? Or did you think of any that you were like, that's what I think I'm going to like to hear? Or for you, was there anything that during labor you were like, that just really meant a lot if somebody spoke that to you or spoke it over you? So I'd love to hear some feedback. If there's anything that you guys thought about, talked about, that you were like, that word of affirmations, like, yes, that's what I would love to hear. Anybody?
We did talk about it on the way home,
Okay.
but I can't remember what it was.
Okay.
Oh, it's okay to think about it for a while.
Okay. Awesome.
I feel like I just like, I don't know, don't really care to hear anything. I just want to like breathe it out. And,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I'm in pain and someone's trying to like comfort me, I'm like, please just go away.
Okay.
So,
So when
not
you're
sure.
so when you're in pain, like normally, like if you're sick or just not feeling good, are you like? Tell me how you respond to that.
Well, for the first 5 months of being pregnant, growing up every single day, he would try to like help me and give me stuff and hold my hair, and I like hated all of it, and I was so mean. And so I would imagine I would be the same way.
Okay.
Like I would just be like, go away, or like, I need a paper towel, but like I don't know. That's
So
it.
you kind of like wanted him to get the stuff, but then just kind of you wanted your own like space.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
Which is sad, but sorry.
Yes. Well, that's where you're gonna kind of have to be in tune with her, and maybe you can say some stuff, and maybe not. So yes, but a lot of some good ideas are like you're doing great. I love you. Like just kind of if she's. Like I said, if you don't, then just kind of, this is a time where you definitely want to be in tune with your wife and be like, okay, what is she? is she gonna want me to speak, or is it just better to be quiet and give her the paper towel or give her whatever she needs? But I'm so proud of you. You're a wonderful mother. You know, just some of those things that you can speak from the heart. Taking one, just reminding her to take one contraction at a time. Let's not focus on what's ahead. Let's just breathe through one contraction at a time. So let's just think about timing contractions. So how to time contractions. So to time how far apart they are, we go from the beginning of one contraction to the beginning of the next contraction. That's going to tell us how far apart the contractions are coming. Now, if you want to know the duration of them, you go from beginning to end. Now, I know back in the day, everybody was kind of like have a watch on. Nowadays, everybody's got their phones, and there's a ton of apps out there that you can just hit start when it starts and stop when it stops, and it's going to log everything for you, kind of keeping track of your progression and everything. So I say it's good to
Pregnancy
know.
apps?
Yes.
Like baby-related apps
Yes.
that would have that.
That have that. It's like a labor. If you Google, like if you search your apps, and it's really neat because then it'll tell you exactly how long your contractions lasted and how far apart they are, and then it'll kind of like progress, like show your progression. And then a lot of times, a lot of them that I've used recently, they're like contact your care provider, head to the hospital. So they kind of like
That's
it's so
nice.
neat, and it's kind of I say go ahead and use those because that way you're not focused on okay, contraction started.
Because that would be
Okay,
stressful.
it
Like if
stopped.
I would have to like.
Yeah, and then like that way
Try and
you're not
figure out.
having to track everything.
So
That
do
way
you
it's kind of-
start in like phase 1?
You can. I say some people like, and it kind of depends on personalities here. There's some people that are like, I want to know exactly what's happening, and then there's others where they're like, let's do it for an hour, and then let's go off for 2 or 3 hours, and then let's go back on for a little bit to just kind of see how things are going. That way it doesn't take like your thinking, like it's like, okay, now we have to time it. Like it just kind of, and it kind of depends on personality. And it's a thing where if you have your phone, Dad can just be like, okay, you take your nice deep cleansing breath. He pushes the button. You take your nice deep cleansing breath at the end. He pushes the button again. And it's like very, like he can do it very discreetly where it's not interfering with like what you're doing or anything like that. So I'm just like, it's good to know how to time them just, yeah. But the apps that they have nowadays are amazing. So I'm like, get an app, it's super easy. And that way then when you do call into your care provider, you've got all your information right in front of you.
Mine reminds me to take bump pictures, which is like a lifesaver.
That's
Because
amazing.
I would have never thought of like. I mean, yes, you do, but it's just one of those things that I forgot.
Yes, yes, that's amazing. So yeah, I would say check them out now and see which ones that, I mean, they're pretty easy to use, but just kind of see which one you're like, okay, yeah, that's the one that I kind of like. So now let's go into the second phase. Phase 2 is active labor. Can anybody tell me what active labor is going to look like? So you can tell Mom here is starting to be like, she's not that happy, let's carry conversation, talk about things. She's kind of like, this is getting a little bit uncomfortable here. So second phase, we say normally lasts 6 hours or more. Contractions are lasting 45 to 60 seconds and they're 2 to 5 minutes apart. So as you can see, things have definitely progressed. Our contractions now have a definite peak. You can feel them coming and you can feel like where they're the strongest and then you can feel them going down again. So this is where we're dilating from 3 to 7 centimeters. So there's a lot of dilation happening. And Mom, normally at active phase, is no longer talking. When a contraction starts, she takes her nice deep breath and she's going to focus on her contraction. It's no longer like we're going to talk through contractions, we're going to, carry on a conversation. This is kind of where Mom zones into like she's in birth land now. No longer are we talking and saying jokes and everything. This is where she's like, okay, I need to focus on the contraction. This is where I told Dad sometimes if she's walking or doing something, she may stop mid-sentence or mid-step and focus on her contraction. This is where contractions are getting definitely more intense. So this is where we're dilating. What are we gonna do when we get to the active phase of labor? What are the things we're gonna do to get through this?
Labor positions?
Yes. This is where we're definitely gonna be changing positions. Changing positions, we say at least 30 minutes is a good one, but at least every hour. You wanna be changing positions. This is where you wanna be upright as much as possible, kind of making use of gravity. Some of the things you can do, so our positions were like the rock hips, we can do stairs, we can do walking, stuff that's keeping us moving and making use of gravity. So those are good, are good positions. This is a good time to take a shower. That feels amazing. If you have like a jacuzzi or hot tub or even a bathtub, now's a good time to use, that can be very relaxing. So now would be a good time in the active phase if you want to do that. That's a really good time. And this is a time where you want to start thinking, if you're going somewhere to have the baby, to kind of figure in the time it's going to get to take there, or if you're like going to your parents, kind of making sure you're there and settled in good. Just remembering like your drive time and if it's like rush hour traffic or anything like that to get there. You do want to make sure, normally in early labor we say contact your care provider, just kind of let them know what's happening. If you haven't, definitely do it if you haven't, by the time you get into the active phase, I'd say definitely let them know kind of what's up. If the midwife needs to come or something, definitely let them know how things are progressing. Just filling them in on how many contractions, like how long they are and how far apart they are. And make sure if you need to go somewhere that you are kind of calculating the time to get there.
So you wouldn't want to go yet?
This is kind of it's kind of one of those questions where
I was
there's
gonna say,
no.
how do you know?
So I always tell moms you have to kind of think about how things progressed within the last hour, and think about, okay, we have to get, if we're going somewhere, it takes, let's say, half an hour. So within that half hour are we in rush hour traffic? Are we in the middle of the night? Because that's going to even make a difference to like how soon we need to leave. So kind of taking all that into consideration and being like, okay, what was the last hour like, to what do you think this next hour is going to be, and how long it takes us to get there and get everything settled in. Because you definitely don't want to be doing that in transition. So kind of weighing
Okay,
all
so try to
of
get
that.
there before you get to transition.
Yes, so kind of taking into consideration to get there how things are progressing. It's kind of a little bit of a guessing game, just with, everything. Did you have any input on that?
That I don't have to go somewhere.
Yes.
But we'll see.
I was going to say, and then if you are at home, this is kind of, and the midwives will definitely work with you really good with them being like, hey, we're in what we think is active labor, contractions are this far apart, lasting this long. And they'll know, depends how far away they are when they should get there. So, just keeping them updated. I would say kind of keep your care provider updated so you're like on the same page. And so for mom, during this active phase, what is mom going to do? She's going to remember to take her deep cleansing breath at the beginning and at the end of each contraction. So baby, we always say, keep yourself and baby happy with the oxygen. She needs to relax. This is where visualization can come in. The whole thing that we talked about, things that help you to relax, this is kind of where we want to be paying attention to what's going to be helping us to relax. And this is where, if you need to make sounds, we're going to keep them low. So if you need to vocalize, go ahead and do it, just keep it low. For the partner, what are they going to be doing during this time? So this is a time where we always say, do not leave mom alone. Things are getting intense, don't leave her alone. all the words of affirmation, kind of like we said. Just being there, supporting her, giving her words of affirmation. If you need to, like, do that whole slow dancing, hold her, something like that. Helping her breathe through her contractions. Sometimes just being beside her and just being like, okay, let's breathe with me. Helping her to breathe, that way she can remember. Helping her to relax and not feel overwhelmed. This is where we can use warm compresses, cold compresses. Reminding her to stay hydrated. And if she's staying hydrated, reminding her to go to the bathroom. I'm going to make sure she does that. And in between contractions, this is the time. So normally moms in the early phase, they're going to be changing positions by themselves because they feel good and they want to move. When we're getting into active labor, this is where you might have to kind of really coach her into actually moving. So sometimes when I'm working with moms, they're like, hey, you know what, you might really hate me, and it's okay, you can hate me right now, but we're going to move because baby needs to work its way down through your pelvis. So just kind of encouraging mom to keep on moving. That the more she moves, the better it's going to be for baby to come help baby navigate down through. So that's where you want to definitely be there for her, helping her. Let's look at phase 3 now, transition. Does anybody want to say anything about transition or what that looks like or what we're going to get into? Yes,
Wait, I got the whole process heard already.
Yes. So transition. This is where a lot of times moms feel like they hit the brick wall, where it's kind of like up to now, they're just like all of a sudden, this is a lot of times where we hear the, I can't do it, I can't go on anymore. So let's just look at it a little bit. As we can see, this is getting pretty intense. One pretty amazing thing is this is like the shortest part of labor.
The one thing that I feel is it's never gonna end.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm in this for the rest of my life. And looking back, it's like, wait, that was only like that.
Mm-hmm. But it's the most. What's really amazing is this the short, like normally the shortest part of labor. But as you can see, mom is feeling really uncomfortable now. Things are getting really intense where she's like you said, like I'm gonna be in this forever. I can't do this anymore. This is where she feels like she's come up against that brick wall, like we can't go on anymore. As you can tell, contractions now, instead of doing that whole nice peak, they can kind of get a little crazy, where they kind of have a peak, but it doesn't get, like, it's got a peak, but then it kind of goes up and down until it comes back down again. So this is where things are feeling really intense, and this is where she's dilating from 7 to 10 centimeters. So, this is like we're at the very end stretch, but she's feeling really uncomfortable. Things are feeling very intense. Because the intensity increases, the pain sometimes does not. So sometimes even though things are feeling intense, like the contractions are getting intense, sometimes the pain does not. This is like a hormone surge. Your body's getting ready to get baby out. This can feel overwhelming. It is the shortest part and you will see baby soon. So it's kind of like, it's a very intense part, but what we have to remember is it's short and baby's gonna soon be here. So when you reach that, we know baby's gonna soon be here. So the husband is gonna be there in every way that we mentioned before. This is the time where you might have to get in front of her and be like, look into my eyes and breathe with me. It's so intense, sometimes she kind of closes her eyes and goes within herself and just like is absorbed in the pain. So sometimes we tell the spouse, say, you know what, honey, you're gonna look in my eyes and we're gonna breathe through this contraction. And so sometimes you have to really get up in her face and just really help her breathe through that, and tell her to look into your eyes. With transition, what's really amazing, so we talked about labor and how labor usually gives us like some signs that we're gonna go into that. So let's look at transition, because transition normally gives us some signs too. So some of the signs to look for, can anybody guess any of these? They're all going to start with some of these letters. Anybody know any of the signs that we're going to get with transition?
Tears.
Well, a lot of times there is tears. But the T is for trembling and shaking. Sometimes mom, she will feel all of a sudden she gets like her legs get really shaky. Sometimes it's all over her body will get shaky and just kind of tremble. And this can feel really weird for the mom. So I always tell dads, like, if her legs are just like wobbling out of control, it feels really weird. Just kind of go beside her and just help steady her. Sometimes she'll shake all over and she can kind of feel cold. If it's that, get her a nice warm blanket. Like, try to relieve her and just be there for that. Because it can feel like a really weird, because you're not in control, it can feel like, okay, wait, something's broken or something's wrong or I need to do something to fix it. It's part of it, it's your body, that hormone surge, getting ready to push baby out. The R. Anybody want to guess what the R stands for? This one is for rectal pressure. A lot of times, the mom can be shaking. It's kind of like that butt pressure. Sometimes it's like, they'll be like, I need to poop. And it can be a lot of pressure, feeling like you really
Is
do
that
have
not
to poop.
sign that you have to push?
Sometimes it can be, sometimes it just feels like you just need to poop. It's just a lot of pressure because you think baby's coming down and it's like all that pressure right in that area. So a lot of times it's like a lot of rectal pressure, a lot of butt pressure. And sometimes it can be the thing where you are getting the urge to push too. So it's kind of all of that combined.
Because
Me
with
too.
my third one, my epidural stopped working, and it was the only one that I would have felt the urge to push, or even that.
Okay. And sometimes even if you do, because a lot of women think, okay, if I get an epidural, I'm not literally going to feel anything. But even if you do get an epidural, a lot of times moms will still feel that rectal pressure, the butt pressure. So let's look at A. A is for aches in the lower back. So sometimes it can be that rectal pressure and just kind of let that back can kind of be like a lot of pain. It's kind of like a backache that don't go away even if you change positions. The N, anybody want to guess what the N stands for? The N is for nausea. So
Yes, that.
sometimes this is where mom's like, okay, I feel like I need to throw up or something. So we say, dads, if mom is feeling that way, just get something close by. Sometimes she'll just get that feeling. Sometimes she actually will vomit or throw up. So just kind of have something close by in case she does get that. The S. S is for the show. Sometimes this is where mom can have the bloody show. If that hasn't happened already. Let's look at I. Anybody any guess what I is? After I say it, you'll be like, uh-huh. I is for irritable. So mom right now can get super irritable. And she can be really irritable, but she can also be, I like to say with that, very sensitive. So this is where I tell dads, when mom's hitting transition, this is where you want to weigh out your words very carefully. So just be careful with what you say. Because she can be very sensitive. She may kind of have the panicky feeling, like where you're like, this is gonna last forever, or I really can't do this, you know. She can feel very irritable, very sensitive, and very panicky, and this is where very carefully weighing out your words, give her some verbal support, or just be right there for her through this. But like I said, be pretty careful with what you do say. So T, what is T gonna be? T is for tense and restless. So things are feeling pretty intense for her. This is where she can tend to tense up. And like I said, if she's really feeling tensed up and kind of getting lost in that pain, that's where you want to make eye contact. Just remind her, say, you know what, let's open our eyes, look into my eyes, and we're going to breathe through these contractions. and just reminding her that it is short. This is the shortest phase of labor, and we're getting towards the end. Baby is gonna soon be here. So sometimes just reminding her that it hurts really bad, but baby's gonna soon be here. Just kind of getting that end prize like in view. You know, we're getting there. We're close to the end. And the I is for, a lot of times we hear, I can't do it. A lot of times she'll be like, that's where we hit the brick wall we're up against. And then the O is the O for in hot or cold flashes. And this is where, if she gets hot, you might need to get a fan or somehow try to help her cool down. If she gets cold, get her a blanket. Sometimes if you're in hospital, they'll have the heated blankets. So just kind of help her adjust to whatever she needs in this time. And then the N, which I think Dorothy already said it, the need to push. Sometimes she will be like, I need to push. She'll have that urge. So transition, these are some of the signs that you're in transition. You're in the transition phase, and you're almost there. Baby's almost here. So sometimes after we hit transition, sometimes before we get into stage 2, which is the pushing until baby is born, we have a little time frame here, and that, if you're blessed to have it, we tell moms totally embrace it, and that's a resting phase. Sometimes your uterus just kind of needs a little bit of time to catch up, and you just get a resting phase. It's kind of like all of a sudden the contractions stop, and a lot of times moms are like, what just happened? Like we went through this whole intense thing, now all of a sudden everything stops. It's okay. Your body's nothing's broken. It's just kind of taking a time to everything catch up. And so we say if you do get that resting phase, absolutely embrace it. Rest, take a nice deep breath, just soak in it for what it's worth, because soon you're going to be pushing that baby out. So if you do get that resting phase, don't feel like you're broken, but just go ahead and embrace it, because your body's getting ready to push the baby out. So if you do get that, just go ahead, rest. If you can, I've seen moms already just like catch like a 5-minute nap or something, go for it. Your body's gonna know what to do, and you're gonna go right into the second stage. So we're gonna go ahead, take a bathroom break, and when we come back, we're gonna look at stage 2 and stage 3, pushing the baby out in the delivery of the placenta. So we're gonna take a break, we're gonna get some water, and we'll go from there.